I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Recipe Redemption. I'm Mike Uyak. Today we're taking another tour around the weird and wonderful United States, heading up to the Northeast a little bit for something that you might not think about when you think New England cooking. And it is the chow mein burger. It's sort of not really a burger. As you see when you look at the recipe, it's beef, onion, chop suey vegetables, which generally speaking are bean sprouts, onion, bamboo shoots, kind of sauteed together. Sometimes other vegetables, but that's often what you get if you're able to find a can of chop suey vegetables. I wasn't, so I actually had to make my own. But and it's served in this kind of a cheap and cheesy gravy, fairly thick gravy on a hamburger bun. So it's very sloppy Joe-ish. And at first blush, it's a weird thing. A chow mein burger or chow mein sandwich, or sometimes just called chow mein on a bun. It originated in 1930s, 1940s, in Massachusetts, New Hampshire area. It kind of spread out to more of New England, but it's not well known outside of the northeastern United States. 30s and 40s, sort of Depression era and a little bit beyond, as a sort of cheap and easy way to feed the masses. Had not too scary ingredients, fairly common ingredients that even the most desperate restaurateurs could probably get a hold of. And they could churn them out in mass quantities. To our modern palate, the idea seems a little weird, putting chow mein on a hamburger bun as a sort of sandwich. But it persists to this day. Nathan's Famous hot dog chain, they actually advertise, and particularly in their location in Coney Island, they advertise they still serve chow mein on a bun. And there are places all over New England that still serve this. Outside of it, almost completely unknown. So let's just give it a shot.
Since we're doing chow mein, I figured a wok would be appropriate. So here is some ground beef. I got some fairly lean stuff, and I'm just browning it off. Now the recipe says to do this with onions, but since I put the onions in with the chop suey vegetables, which I'm adding here, I didn't bother cooking them with the beef like the recipe says. So once those are heated through, here's my slurry. About a half a cup of water, tablespoon of soy sauce, and about a teaspoon of cornstarch. Just dumped into a hot pan and then immediately start stirring to make sure I don't develop any lumps. And once that comes up to a simmer, it thickens up to a fairly thick gravy. And I want to cook that for about another minute just to make sure that sort of raw starch flavor gets cooked out. And here is the eponymous bun of chow mein on a bun. Ladle some of the beef mixture and top with some chow mein noodles. I realized belatedly that they meant the crunchy type of chow mein noodles. I didn't get those. I got regular stir-fried chow mein noodles. So it's going to be a little different. And top with the upper bun.
And here it is. Chow mein on a bun. It's already soaking through the bottom. I can see it soaking through the bottom half of the bun. So I am going to persist in my belief that this is really, honestly, really a knife and fork kind of sandwich. Ooh, I may have bitten off a little more than I can chew here. So, here we are. Hmm. Very soy forward, since that's really the only sort of seasoning that you put into this. Um, Beef is good, onion's good, but the soy kind of is a predominant flavor. Um, since I didn't use the crunchy chow mein noodles, my chow mein noodles are obviously not crunchy. Um, so there's a textural component that's kind of missing, but I didn't overdo it on the chopped suey vegetables, so there's still a little bit of crunch um, from the bamboo shoots and the sauteed onions, and a little bit from the bean sprouts. They kind of get really soft really fast. Um, it's hot, it's brown, and it's filling. So, Depression era, that's pretty much all you can ask for. Um, but as far as haute cuisine, I'd say, well, I guess if it was the Depression, I would be lining up for this. Because maybe that's all there was. But today, it's kind of meh. Um, I know I've seen some other recipes for the chow mein on a bun that have a little bit more to them. The gravy actually has molasses in it, which will give it just a little bit, obviously, a little more sweetness and a little more bitterness. Sort of a more unctuous mouthfeel to the gravy. There may be slightly different proportions. But generally speaking, it's beef stir fry on a bun. And it's not bad. But and full disclosure, I mean, I fully acknowledge that this is, to some people, a sort of tradition. It is a part of their heritage, if you want, a New England heritage. And there may even be people who, are nostalgic about this particular sandwich, or remember going to Coney Island and getting a chow mein on a bun from Nathan's Famous, and it's something that they always did, and it's just this quirky little thing that became a part of the culture. So, far be it for me to say that this needs redeeming overall. But for me, not having that connection to this particular dish, not having any sort of sentimentality or nostalgia connected to this dish, to me it's a little bit of a eh. And when I think of a sandwich or when I think of a burger, yes, it is served on a bun, but it soaks through and just to me it's not a sandwich unless you can pick it up. To me, it's not a burger unless it is in patty form. So I think we can tinker with this. Not necessarily redeem it, but make it so it's something that I personally would want to eat. Let's get experimenting.
So I'm going to start by taking the rest of my chopped suey vegetables that I cooked up, and I'm going to blitz them in a food processor. It's going to make it a little easier to incorporate into a burger. And I'm going to add a little more flavor to the party. This is onion powder, granulated garlic that I'm adding here. Throw in a pinch of salt. And just for kicks, I figured I would add, this is probably about a half teaspoonful, 5-spice powder, just to give it a little more flavor to work with. And then once I figure out how my food processor works, yeah, just like that. Gonna blitz that up. There's not a whole lot of liquid in here yet, so not all of it is processing. A lot of it's sticking to the sides. So I'm going to scrape down the sides. And I'm going to add a little bit more liquid to this just so it flows and sort of blends and processes a little bit better. And that's going to be 1 chicken egg, which is also going to help as a binder in the final mix. And, well, we can't leave out the soy sauce because that was the predominant flavor in the original version of this recipe. So, blitz that up for a few seconds, and you're going to end up with this appetizing slurry at the end. But don't worry, there's going to be more going into this. Like cooked rice, about half a cup. I'm going to use that to absorb some of that excess liquid during the cooking process, along with about a half a pound of ground beef and most of those chop suey slurry stuff. Mix by hand. Don't be afraid to use your hands when cooking. This is really the best way to get these ingredients to incorporate with one another. Take your time, make sure they're all evenly spread. Oh, and lest we forget, the chow mein noodles. Can't forget those because this is chow mein on a bun after all. So I'm using these whole chow mein noodles and just very gently working them into the meat. And what's going to happen, hopefully, is that these noodles will act kind of like culinary rebar. It's going to help reinforce the structure because this is still, even with the rice in there, it's still a fairly loose mixture. So I'm pretty sure it's going to fall apart without some sort of reinforcement. And even then, you need to be kind of gentle with it. Now, I'm using a regular non-stick pan, and ultimately I wanted to use a ring mold, but I don't have any ring molds. But luckily, I think from her cooking school days, Chris had this cutter. I think it's for cutting the crust off sandwiches, but anyway, that'll work. Putting that down in the pan after lubing it up, and pressing down some of my chow mein burger mixture into this. Press it down lightly to kind of move it toward the corners. I'm not too worried about it being perfectly square or anything like that. Mostly just want to fill the mold. This is, you may note, going to be a fairly thick burger patty. So I'm cooking this over medium-high heat, so it doesn't burn, but it has time to cook all the way through. And after about 4 or 5 minutes on one side, I'm carefully going to flip it over, and it dumps right out of the ring mold, so I guess I don't need that anymore. And because this is kind of delicate, I'm going to let it sit there where it lays. I'm not going to move it around. I'm not going to poke it much. Now, in the meantime, I toasted this bun, and once the patty has had about another 5 minutes on the second side, on the bun it goes. And to add just a little extra flavor to the party, I'm adding oyster sauce, which you can get at your local Mega Mart. And it's just going to add a little bit more umami that's more than just soy. It's got a very distinctive flavor to it that I rather like. And it goes well with beef and vegetables.
Behold, my version of the chow mein burger. It is a sandwich. You pick up. Go figure. Many of the same flavors. Because you don't have that gravy, it's not as soy forward. It's not the predominant flavor. It's there. It gives you that umami-ness. It gives you that saltiness. But it's not just like soy burger. You can actually sort of taste the meat. And honestly, because it actually has had a chance to fry, get a little bit of caramelization on whatever noodles were on the surface of the burger, as well as the vegetables that are mixed through and the meat. They've all had a chance to caramelize on that outer surface. So it actually tastes a little bit more like beef chow mein. But in a burger. As I mentioned, it is still a little crumbly. I'm trying to hold my hand under it. but it is definitely more manageable than the original version. I wasn't even going to try to pick that up. mm. Mm. That little bit of five spice comes through, gives it a little bit more of what I kind of identify as sort of a American Chinese restaurant flavor. I don't know that I'll be making a regular diet out of this, because it's pretty fatty. You do end up using quite a bit of oil in, especially if you're making your own chow mein noodles and actually stir frying those, and then frying the chop suey vegetables, and then frying the burger, and particularly if you put any sort of fat on the bun, if that's your thing. I didn't, but I know a lot of people put at least some butter or mayonnaise on the bun to kind of help protect the bun. I think toasting it was good enough. With all of the sort of absorbent binder, the rice and the chow mein actually can absorb a little bit more liquids, a little more moisture. There's not really any moisture leaking out of this burger patty, and as a result, I'm not as worried about the bun getting soggy too quickly. Mm. That is actually pretty delicious. So, let me know what you think of the chow mein burger, or chow mein on a bun. And are there any things that you would try differently from what I did? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Please share. And I hope to see you again next time here on Recipe Redemption. Thanks for watching.